You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.
Hey, this is Dave with Saturday Omaha, and I am bringing a very special conversation surrounding a wonderful event that I got a chance to attend from the House of Bah Foundation. You may remember from a past episode that we talked to Chef Jamil Bah-Traore about House of Bah and how he is uplifting immigrant chefs here in our Omaha area and providing a environment of not only training but also normalizing cuisines that Omaha and other areas may not be familiar with, and in addition to helping that familiarity then not only reach diners but also venues that maybe have some skepticism about serving some type of food that they're not familiar with, which blew my mind that was even a thing. I didn't know venues would do that, but that's probably a whole nother discussion in itself. And our topic for this evening, though, is this event that I got to attend, which was the Culinary Capstone dinner for chefs that Chef Jamil has brought up through his House of Bah Foundation, which actually we had talked about in our last episode with Chef Jamil received a grant from the Jacques Pepin Foundation, which is super cool. Go, if you don't know who Jacques Pepin is, go check him out. And this dinner was wonderful, and it was a 5-course dinner plus dessert put on by 10 plus wonderful people, because there are a lot of people involved. But let's get to the two people that I'm going to be talking to, and there's going to be two voices you might be familiar with, and one is Chef Jamil Bah-Traore. Chef, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for having us again.
And the other melodious voice that you will hear is Chef Brian O'Malley of Metropolitan Community College Culinary Institute. Chef, how are you?
I'm wonderful, but with melodious, I feel like I need to maybe, put together kind of a jam band or something to make this come out right.
Anytime I encounter both of you or your voices, it usually leads to a smile on my face. There's a whole nother event that I got to meet you both at Metropolitan Community College Culinary Institute yesterday, but that might be a whole nother episode on there. We're here to talk about this menu, and I sort of gave a description there, but Chef Jamil, could you maybe from your perspective, how do you see, or what was this event in your words?
So this is the Capstone event, like you said, for our culinary students. They've gone through the what we call immigrant culinary integration program. Those are immigrant refugees that have been here and have aspiration to work in the culinary field, but they don't know how to start, where to go, and stuff like that, right? So our role is to meet them where they are and teach them something that's going to make them feel comfortable, either continue on like Metro, for example, or either being employed by somebody to continue their learning. So the dinner is the capstone. This is where they get to show what they've learned. Also, this is where they get to understand that they also can do this. They also can turn their culinary heritage into something that is fine dining, or something that is what we think is the fine art, or is what we are used to here. Like you said, if you talk about this type of cuisine or this type of and folks, people don't think that they can also produce something that can be that well done, right? So this is where they get to also believe in themselves and realizing it's possible. So that dinner was actually 6-course dinner that we had to throw something in. We initially promoted as 5-course dinner, but ended up being 6-course dinner. So we had 10 ladies from Syria, Morocco, Sudan, Benin, Jordan, and all of them came together to create this meal.
That's wonderful. And you brought up a really good point that cuisines that maybe classically people don't think of as available in fine dining, everything was presented in a truly beautiful presentation, beautiful tables, place settings, wonderful preparation because of the tasting menu, small dishes for the most part. We'll talk about that lamb in a second, because that was not a small dish.
Yes.
But and Chef Brian, so you were actually the MC for the event. So you had a special role in this as well.
I was. I think that my role really, though, was to demonstrate how to approach a meal like that with wonder. I wasn't there to explain things. I don't understand that cuisine any better than anybody else in the room. Maybe that's not fair. I may understand it a little.
Sure.
But certainly I have no expertise in the kind of cuisines that we were served that evening.
Yeah.
And so I really was honored to be able to act the student from the mic in a way that I hope showed everybody that it's great to discover new and exciting and different flavors after a life spent in pursuit of them. I mean, I've spent my whole life chasing down new things to eat, much to my chagrin sometimes. But that was really the great honor of the night, was to let a dish land and then be in wonder about what it was, and then be talking with the table about it, asking Chef Jamil about it, asking other folks, had they seen it before? Had they tried it before? Wait, isn't this like this other dish that we've had? It was really an educational experience for all of us that night. There wasn't anybody in the room that had eaten all of the dishes that were served that night. So there were some people that had eaten some of the 6 courses,
right,
but nobody that had tried all of those things. And so that's a great room to be in too. Just a place where people have set aside their prejudice against flavor for a minute and said, let's go for it.
As you said, you kind of took on a role of also ever the educator, of heading back to the kitchen, checking in with the chefs that were back there, and getting some nuggets of wisdom, some detail that you then shared with all of the diners on, we talked about like the Yazzie spice, or I think it was maybe it was the kibe, and maybe we'll talk about that. But there was one that was very similar to, and we'll get there, but like what I would think of as like an empanada. And I think you had mentioned that depending on the country where you would typically get that dish, it might be an empanada, but somewhere else it might be a little different. And so you were able to present those things to us, and I really appreciate that uplifting of knowledge. And I think I've maybe had one dish prior to this meal that was on this menu. And so while the dish as a whole was new to my plate, and some of the flavor combinations were new to my palate, some of the flavors were very familiar. And like when I first started really enjoying Indian food, the first time you have Indian food, if you've never had it, you may be unsure of the spice combinations and flavors that are coming your way. And as you eat it more, you build familiarity with those flavors. And now it's one of those things, I start thinking about Indian food, I'm like, now I have to have it. But the spices and things, they may be used in different ratios, combinations, or preparations, but cinnamon and cumin and, all these different things.
Paprika, caraway seed, fennel,
Yes, there are threads and elements of flavor that may feel more familiar, that you can tie in addition to experiencing a brand new dish. There's a reason that people have been cooking these dishes for hundreds or thousands or whatever of years, because they're good. So there's a reason there. I guess maybe before we start talking about the food a little bit, sometimes on this show we say the conversation starts with food and leads to heart and soul. And, and I might flip it a little bit and start with a little bit of the heart and soul. And so these 10 chefs that were helping create this meal, maybe are there any details about those chefs that you might want to share that come to mind? I know there was a range of personalities, and
there was.
One of the things that really warmed my heart was at the end of the meal, and I'm getting ahead of myself by quite a bit here, but was that they all came out, and the thankfulness that I saw in people's eyes, because I think they got like 2 standing ovations from the tables, but the recognition that folks that maybe have never tried these things really enjoyed it. And we as diners were honored to be there. But please tell me a little bit about the chefs that were instrumental in making this happen.
Yes, but first of all, I just want to thank Chef Brian O'Malley for making the time to come that day. Like you say, what a better person than him to actually be there and talk about this kind of food. And that alone, I was telling the ladies that this is I guess you don't understand who brand normalize in Omaha, but once you get to be in this room with all these people also that were there, you understand you making a difference. And you're right, some were tearing up after we were, and then they were incredibly shocked and proud, and they couldn't believe that they were able to produce something like this. Because for some of them, it's also therapy. The first thing that I found is therapy.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, because they've come from war zone. They're immigrant refugees.
Yeah.
Some of them in less than a year.
Wow.
And then cooking is what they know. Cooking is what they want to be part of. So when they come here and then can cook together, and you see how folks that don't speak. So we had two ladies from Morocco and Benin that can speak French, because the ex-French colony.
Yeah.
And we have others that can speak Arabic. So sometimes the one from Morocco will translate to the one from Benin, and then vice versa, and then so they can tell other people. But you see this group, and they work together, and they're learning new things. They haven't tried cauliflower before because it's not something that they commonly use. And they trust me enough to believe in what we're doing and changing. When we're making this meal, they had this family style in mind. They think, Chef, this is not going to be enough. I'm like, just wait. Yeah, because they wanted to do it in a sense where they think, when we do this, like the pastilla in Morocco, that one is just like for 6 people.
Yeah.
But here, because it's fine dining, we were able to break it down into portions. So they didn't have any idea at all how it's going to turn out.
Totally different approach.
Totally different approach. And then how it's going to be. It's also a learning moment for myself.
Yeah.
I'm learning from these ladies. So again, like I said, the first time that we meet, we talk about it. What I see for me is the therapy behind it. Talking together, sharing their story, and feeling like they're part of something. That's when you see that they would rather do this than doing something else where it's like working in meat packing or factory or something that's not their calling. So, for example, the lady from Benin, when I realized that she lives in Bellevue, and one day she was trying to get there, but she couldn't really figure out. And then she told me, okay, can you just talk to the guy? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, my Uber driver. I was like, do you mean you Uber from Bellevue to come to this class? I'm like, why you didn't tell me that? Why you got to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, we can find a way to help you. She's like, well, because I want to be here. I mean, I was like, then that's when sometime I realized that maybe this is meaningful. Maybe I don't understand how much people want this.
Yeah.
But those moments is just kind of like what makes me feel like, I'm glad that, I'm part of this process, right? Yeah. Or whether you have some ladies that say, I can't come because my husband, want me to just watch the kid and stuff like that. And another one say, my sister can watch the kids for you, or my daughter can watch the kids for you. So you can come to this class. So that also, again, it tells you the camaraderie between those ladies, right?
Yeah.
None of them has worked in fine dining. None of them has worked in a restaurant. We've had some like from Ukraine that have worked in a restaurant before, but all of them knows how to cook. So it's just being together. And then when they were tearing up, when they were telling people that please, they were thanking people for, giving them the opportunity to showcase this, which was to me, it was like, I would think that the guests would be thanking them, but they felt like it was an opportunity.
Yeah.
And all of them at the end were like, Chef, if you have an opportunity for us to work with you, we want that. So that's really what I'm trying to do. I want them to believe that it's possible. I want them to share that with other people, that it's possible. And if they can't do it themselves, their kid can do it. So we can have an Iraqi chef, a Somali chef, a Benin chef, Congolese chef that can also go out there and be part of this Omaha food, scenery that we have.
You could just see it in all of their eyes, the thankfulness, and like you said, tearing up or whatever, because the reception from the diners and them looking out into the crowd and going, my goodness, these folks that I don't know like my food, from my country, or the food that I helped create as part of this family team in the kitchen, was just moving.
Totally.
Yeah. The thing I saw that I hope the participants in the cohort saw is that it was, I will say, it was one of my favorite things about America on display. People from all walks of life gathered together, openly wondering about somebody else's life.
Yes.
And then being receptive and celebrating what they got delivered.
Yeah.
Right? That these people that sat down, so I had a very wonderful table, but two of the guests at my table, I would classify as picky eaters, right? I
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm friends with them.
Yes.
I've gone out with them many, many
Yes,
times.
yes.
And they're, kind of French fries and hamburger kind of folks.
Sure.
And they got this invite from me and said yes, and showed up, and I was certainly excited to see them because they're my friends.
Certainly.
But I was a little nervous.
Wondering what they would think.
And they left overwhelmed. Like, I don't think they're going to turn Lalibela into a regular
Yes,
Tuesday
yes,
night dinner
yes.
now. But I think they saw that there is magnificence in the world that they've never imagined because of this. And that moment, like, I've been around that moment for a lot of people. I've had that moment many times in my own life. But in that moment where people see how big it really is,
Yes.
that there's somebody from a war-torn village in a country they couldn't find on a map.
Yes.
And that person can bring delicious to the table and give them something that is full of soul and satisfies them. It bowls you over in a way that shows you the power of food, the power of cooking, the power of service, in a way that was just happening over and over that night with every course. It was amazing that we were all gathered together in the first place. It was amazing that the food all went off the way it did. I was totally blown away by these 10 people who've been together 8 weeks.
Yes, 8 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's
8
it.
weeks,
Right.
yes.
That they've been together 8 weeks and they put together this 6-course, the most discombobulated, screwed up thing of the night was me trying to MC on somebody else's computer. Like everything else went when we ran out of ice. I guess we ran out of ice.
Yeah, we ran out of ice.
But aside from those two things, like the girls in the kitchen, the women in the kitchen putting this together,
Yeah.
like they were nervous. They were totally shaking in their boots.
Sure.
But it came out and landed beautifully in a way that, so that piece of it is kind of side one of beautiful, like that they pull together and make this thing happen. But the open-heartedness and accepting and excitement coming from the guests, I was so proud to see it.
Yeah.
Because those are Omaha people sitting in that
Yes.
room, and I'm an Omaha guy, and I want to see that Omaha's up for this.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
it's probably the content of half of Chef and I's conversations is Omaha really ready to handle food at this level from this perspective with this kind of flavoring? And I'm always like, of course we are. But then you put 80 people in the room and I was like, ooh, I hope we are.
Yeah.
And we were.
We were.
I saw it.
We were. And then your friend, the lady, she made sure to look for me at the end. And she came to me and she said, I just want to tell you, my husband and I were just plain boring people when it comes to food. But you changed our mind tonight. I was like, thankful. You made my night. If just you can say that, that's all that I need. That's all that I want. There's somebody to see that now you're more open. Now you become an ambassador. So now you can tell people that no, just dare to go try it.
Yeah.
Dare to go try it. That's all.
it's at least a stand-up double. Can we make baseball references in here?
Go for it.
Right?
Go
Like
for
if your goal was, we want to show these women that they can do something with this kind of value. That absolute clean, excellent.
Thank you, Chef.
But then that rounds to second because I know that you want to change people's minds
Yes.
about food from elsewhere that they're not comfortable with.
Yes.
And so we saw that happen too. Like
Yes.
if that's the mission accomplished.
Thank you, Chef. And that's what it is, truly. As Omaha, as foodie town as we are, I didn't see it. I've been, in this now since 2012.
Yeah.
Graduated from Metro, and then working 3 hotel in town and some catering company and, restaurant. But I haven't seen it yet. And I ask myself, when are we going to see it? How long it's going to take before we see it? So what can I do?
We saw it the other night.
We saw.
I think though too, the moments won't always get to be that well choreographed and dramatic. That it'll happen slower.
Yeah.
That right now, somebody that was there will say yes to a work colleague that wants to go to El Basha for lunch.
Yes.
And then they'll go to, instead of talking them into Lighthouse
Yes.
Pizza.
Yes.
That is no shade on Lighthouse Pizza.
Yeah, no shit at all.
You got to get your drive-through slice.
Yeah.
If you're going to 74th and Pacific, and those are your two choices, right? That somebody was always leaning towards, El Basha, I don't know. And hopefully they were there, and now they say yes. And then that leads to the next thing and the next thing. Like, ultimately, the water will heat up slowly.
Indeed.
And then we'll all just be
Indeed.
cooked.
And that's all that I really want. Whether it's albasha or zaytuni, just people opening up, or nina, or okra, or lalibela, or muna. That's really what I'm trying to achieve, right? If I may also share something, you talked about food and spice earlier. When we were making the kibbeh, when the lady wrote the recipe for kibbeh, they wanted 7 spice that you have to get from a Syrian store or a Mediterranean store. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, how about we do it with the yazi?
Yeah.
She's like, no, we only do it with 7 spice. I was like, it's okay. What is 7 spice? Make your own 7 spice. Why are the 7 spice that you have? She's like, well, chef, I don't know. And then one of the other Syrian ladies said, just try a little bit with the meat and see what it is. And then I ran out because I had to go get something. When I came back, she's like, oh, chef, we tried 7 spice. It's good. It's good. I want the recipe now. I was like, see, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Even as you cook in your own traditional food, you realize that you can do something else to it that will taste the same. It doesn't have to be just that food from Morocco or that spice from Morocco, that spice from Syria. But if you look at it a little bit more, you will know there's a spice combination. Yeah. You can create your own here. Because before they will think that I need to get somebody that's traveling from Syria to bring that here. And I'm telling them, you don't have to.
It traveled to Syria too.
Exactly. It traveled to Syria too.
It's
Exactly.
the way I wish we talked about it better. That instead of it being the traditional food of Morocco, it's the food they remember from when they were in Morocco.
Exactly.
Because all the spices that we're talking about aren't from Morocco.
No.
Right? They're from elsewhere. They got to Morocco. That's where they it's
travel around.
It's a piece of
agreed.
Like, as we authenticate things, right? That we give them this brand over them that calls them Moroccan or calls them Syrian or calls them
French,
anything. It robs them of their rich history.
Agreed.
In a way that's always dangerous. I mean, one of my favorite Moroccan dishes is shakshuka. And I mean, it's made with tomatoes that are only 500 years old in Morocco. Right? And so Morocco is much older than shakshuka.
Yes.
But it's hard. Like, nobody thinks of 500 years ago, this is the way it was. They think of, how did my grandma make this?
Sure.
And
that's
therefore,
all they know.
That's the tradition.
Yes.
And I'm not knocking that. That is how the tradition gets handed to us. But we talk about it in a way that it gets owned with the entire history of a place and a people that kind of steals its identity as being connected to the rest of the world.
And then you get stuck also if you think that way. And then this is interesting that you bring that part because the lady had a pushback on how we were serving the food. Because this is not how we serve the kibbeh. We serve kibbeh with soup. We serve kibbeh with a light yogurt soup. I was like, well, it's okay.
There's a new we now.
There's a new we now. And then just be open to it. And then at the end, they were like, okay, chef, as we're talking about now, I see it. And I was like, it's about serving the same thing, but a different way, but using the same ingredient. We did have yogurt on the menu with the kibbeh, but we didn't make it soup. We just made it puree and then just spread it on the plate. So that's what I love also. I get them to open up also.
In almost every chance we have to embrace something.
Yes.
We have to have let go.
Yeah, we have to let go. Yeah.
Whatever it was. We had our arms wrapped around.
I'm telling you, I was surprised when I came back and then Amina is telling me that she was the one that said, no, I need a 7 spice. I'm like, well, if you got to think as a chef.
Right.
And then don't think everything has to come from there like you were saying. You can create it. It just go here and then do it. And then she said, now I'm like, okay, what do you think? Should we call it 7 spice or should we call it yazi? She's like, well, I don't know, chef, but I like yours. I'm like, well, that's just what it is. And when we're plating, I had to kind of always tell them at the beginning of the class, I tell everybody, everything's fine until Capstone. That's why I want you to trust me. Because when you come
Buckle up,
buckle up, trust me. Because trust me that I'm going to change, I'm going to push boundaries. I might just use something that you think, used to, but it's really things that you have there, but you just didn't, used to eating it, or because you have to go to different region to get it.
Yeah.
So if you see me using butternut squash, it doesn't mean that they won't use it in Togo or Benin. But it's okay. It's going to go here with all this together. It's going to work.
Yeah.
So, and that's also the part where I'm amazed when they come back and tell me, oh, wow, chef, okay, I see now what you're talking about. I can make this. I was like, yeah. So that's also the learning process.
Yeah.
Because we just don't ask folks from here to embrace those cultural, culinary, techniques or food, but we also have to, as new American, to embrace what America has to offer.
Nina was talking about it today. Nina
Yes.
Soji from
Yes.
Okra.
Okay.
We were at an event today, and she's talking about how she wanted to make fufu when she first got here.
Yes.
And there was no
Yam flour or
Yam
yam.
flour
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Yes.
because she ended up having to get stuff, and I think she started her own grocery store at one point.
She
because
did.
Yeah, she
couldn't
did that.
get
Yeah.
what she
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
But so, in order to just be serving it at home
Yeah.
and making her family happy for it, she just used instant potatoes and some sugar
Yep.
and some
Instant
just
potato
got
flake,
close
and
enough.
then cornstarch, and then a little sugar. Recreated that.
Yep.
And that was, trust me, that was close enough. And then if today I were to do the same thing because I want to serve fufu, I don't have to just, beat around the bush. I could call it fufu, and I can serve it to you because it's still that food.
That's your version.
Yeah, you cannot
you're
be
the chef.
One thing that I am proud of, myself to do is that I don't just, restrict myself in the boundary. Anybody just tells you that when I say, I don't. I just tell people that food is food. The same way you want people to accept your food, you have to also know that food is food. You have to use everything that you have.
It's
and
gonna
incorporate that.
change.
Yes.
If it doesn't change, it goes away. Like it ceases to be able to keep getting good.
Good and get better. Yeah.
That piece of it, like that, we talked about it that night. That one of the principal dishes was a traditional, I think, Ghanese dish.
Yeah, a bit from Benin, aloko.
Right?
Yeah, aloko.
And so we were talking about it that night that or somebody at my table
Yes.
asked if salmon was popular in West Africa. And I said, I don't think so, but it's popular here. And so if you're going to serve a dish driven by this kind of fish, then you should use what you could find in the place that you are. I mean, no sensible chef would get somewhere and not use what was there and abundant and available, and then treat it with their skill set and their palate and their taste memory, if that's the same as palate. But you wouldn't hold out for worse product that you ship in, right? I mean,
Right.
to get the fish they would use in Benin to pull this off is probably an impossible task.
It's gonna be hard,
Right.
You know what I mean? You wouldn't get it fresh because the whole West Africa has, the Atlantic Ocean, so there's a lot of fish.
Sure.
There's a lot of things, sea bass, stuff like that. They might have, or Chilean salmon, but there's a dish that we usually eat with fish.
Yeah.
So as you said, we here in America, or we might be in France, whatever, but we could use, catfish, we could use salmon, we could use cod, whatever it is that we have to use. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Even the ladies, they see that, oh, so I can also serve this that way. I was like, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
I do not want you to stop eating this because you can't find the same fish that we used to. You have to, adapt and then use what you have.
There's like a billion things I kind of want to unpack there. Going backwards, the last thing that you said, which I think is really important, don't stop eating the dish you like or preparing the food you like because you don't think you can get whatever you need. Make it work. That's one thing. The other thing was, Chef O'Malley, you were mentioning, that chef wants the best ingredients available. You don't want to compromise on quality because you're compromising on flavor and all those things. So in addition to maybe seasonality, what's the best thing that is in season currently as well? So those are elements. Also, I think Chef Jamil, you had mentioned this too. It's like you're a chef. The recipe is probably a guideline somewhere. Yes, you may have a book of recipes sitting somewhere, but as a chef, you're probably in the kitchen and you're just making that dish as you see the need to create it. The other element that I think is it On Food and Science? I'm trying to remember the name of the book.
Harold McGee.
Maybe so.
Yeah, on food and cooking.
Yeah, big, thick book. And part of the text within, too, is flavor compounds and elements of different ingredients that tie the ingredients together. So maybe you don't have ingredient number 1, but ingredient number 2 may be able to provide the same flavor compounds, elements, molecules that may help you invoke the same feeling, flavor, experience. Chef Jamil, not only changing the minds potentially of the diners, as we have discussed, but the minds of the chefs on that you can do this, you can present it this, and stick to your convictions that it's okay for you as the chef to decide, this is my meal. This is how I'm going to present my food. It doesn't have to be what somebody might consider some textbook definition or some Webster's dictionary version of whatever. Make it yours.
Indeed. That is how we're going to be able to introduce this kind of cuisine in Omaha or in the places where they're not well known, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to also find the best way to do it. And if you're stuck in those moments or stuck in the old, I don't want to say in the traditional way of doing it, you won't be able to. It's not like we're not serving authentic food. All of these are authentic food. It's just that we decided to play them differently. That's all. Yeah. We did not use any single ingredient that if you go to that country, they will not use. It's the same ingredient that we use, but we just cook it differently. Even though we might not have we do eat saumon, in Africa, in West Africa, right? But it's not something that you see a lot of. Yeah. Because when you go to fish, that's not what you get, but it's also a fish. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
Right.
When we're talking about this combination of how things come together and all that, that's also an intricate part of making this menu. Sometimes when I have all those students from different countries, I was like, how am I going to create this? How am I going to align this?
Yeah.
What is the way of putting all this together so it can flow? And having 6 meals from Malawi, Syria, Morocco, Benin, Sudan, and finish with a Jordan dessert.
Yeah.
You can only hope as a chef that, hey, this combination will work. And sometimes we surprise ourselves. They lady themselves because it's amazing. Because I'm telling you, sometimes 2 weeks before Capstone, we're still kind of trying to find out the best recipe, the best way to carve this out. And then, I'm always amazed at when it turned out to be just like this,
Let's go through some of these dishes, and I'm sure we're going to have some organic sidebars. Chef Jamil Bah-Traore, I may lean on you a little bit for pronunciations because I am likely to not get them in the best way, and I would like some help. So our first dish was a soup. From Malawi.
Yes.
Okay, and this is futali?
That's futali.
Okay, so our ingredient loadout here, butternut squash, right?
Yes.
Sweet potato, yuca, yazi spice, coconut, and cream. So for our listeners here, so some of those might be a little bit familiar, but tell me a little bit about yazi spice. We've talked about that a little bit a couple of times, but what is typically in that mixture, or what is it?
I think we'll talk about it the first time I was on this show. Yazi is a spice blend, right? Everybody can have the yazi. You can have your own yazi. Chef Ryan can have his own yazi. This happened to be what my grandma taught me how to make.
Perfect.
And I think I mentioned this the first time I was on your show, that the beauty about these cuisines that we're talking about, like Indian cuisine, Asian cuisine, Middle East, Africa, your spice blend depends on what you have on your hand.
Yeah.
So if you don't have paprika that day, well, you cook without paprika. That alone creates a different flavor profile because you don't have it.
Right.
So you constantly make your spice as you go. So, and every household has their own. Every children will grow and then differ from the mother. So that's what yazi is. We call it yazi in Central Togo, in my mother's native tongue, but it could be called something else.
Gotcha.
When you go to South Togo or when you go to Benin or Ghana.
Yeah.
So that's what I mainly use. That's the key. That's the curry. That's the spice blend. So in this case, we added yazi to the futali, which in Malawi could be a breakfast or a lunch or a snack. It's not served as a soup, but I am the one that combined all this and turned into a soup because I was like, why not? It would be a good way to have this as a soup.
Yeah.
So would it normally be puree together?
So it will normally be peanut butter, and then you have all this potato and coconuts in it. So
in the peanut butter, kind of.
so you have the peanut butter paste or peanut butter actually, and then you actually eat the yuca and all that kind of. They will just be solid in it.
Okay.
That you will eat. It will not be blended and puree served as
It
a
was
soup.
delicious the way that you served it, and I
Thank you.
love that.
And then we kind of put a little smokiness in it because we want to just I thought that day was a cold day.
It was
There's
very
no way.
cold. Oh
There's
my
no
gosh.
way that you cannot have a soup.
I remember we joked when we ran out of ice. No one will care.
Go outside and hold your drink out of the door.
Yeah, we went to start the evening with that soup, and then I heard everybody, people, it was well received.
Yes.
I was pleased.
The two things that stuck out to me, well, first of all, if you came into this and read butternut and you're thinking of butternut squash soup, you're right on the mark. And the two elements, though, that stuck out to me that I really loved was I loved the texture. It was thick but velvety and perfectly smooth. And wow, on a cold night, you couldn't beat it. The other thing was the level of heat that was in there was perfect. It did not blast you out of your seat, but boy, did it just warm you up a little bit and let you know that you were alive. It was very, very delicious.
I have to say, I don't put everything in the description right there, so we did put a little drop of shito in there. So that's what gave it that little bit. And shito is like South African hot sauce, though, to give it a little bit of that heat,
Gotcha. It was great, and what a great way to start the meal and get everybody sharing some soup at the table. Our second dish was from Syria.
Yes.
And this was the kibbeh.
Yes.
And so from our description here, wagyu, ground beef, lamb, bulgur wheat, right?
Yes.
Onion, and kamune,
Yeah, kamune spice.
spice,
Yes.
and herbs.
Herbs,
which
yes,
could
yes,
be just
yeah,
about
kamune
anything.
spice.
So tell me a little bit about this dish.
So we decided to use a wagyu here because, hey, we're in Nebraska. Why not use a wagyu?
Why not?
Ground beef to elevate this dish, right?
Yeah.
And this was done in traditional way. The Syrian lady, this is this from Syria. So the making is a process, honestly. And they mold all this by hand.
Yeah, and so this was the one that to me most invoked the feeling of like an empanada is what I thought
Yeah,
of.
yes, because it was stuffed with the ground beef.
Yes.
And then stuffed with all the other stuff that was inside, So the bulgur is grounded. You grind all that. And then we're using the
Mortar and pestle.
Actually, yeah, mortar pestle, but here we had to use the Vitamix and then attachment to grind all that together.
Right,
and you use also an attachment, to mix all of them together. So we got the wagyu beef meat, and then we ground it ourselves to kind of make our own ground beef, right? And then mix everything else, and then the mold is they have this attachment that push out as almost like you stuff in a sausage,
Oh, okay.
and then it comes out, and then they mold all this together.
Gotcha.
So they will serve kibbeh with the soup. They will serve kibbeh with the broth. They will serve kibbeh with just like something that they will eat with a big meal. So we wanted to just put that because I've never had a kibbeh before. That was my first time having a kibbeh.
Amazing.
That was my first time serving kibbeh.
Wow.
But I was just like, how can I enhance this? How can I put this out, right? And then we did a little vinaigrette with olive oil and then orange juice.
Oh,
and,
was there a zest on top
orange
of that?
zest on top of that as
Yeah.
well. Yes.
Yeah,
And we-
because I had the bulgur wheat, the grind that you had on it
Yes.
was a good size, so it didn't get lost in there, but yet it was small enough that it wasn't distracting. It was
Yes,
built in.
just to give you something.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I remember because I think I cut it open with my fork, and a little bit of that orange zest kind of fell in, and so I got a bite that had that kind of orange hit there too.
Yes.
I'd snack on a dozen of these things.
Yeah,
I mean, the kibbeh was good.
I think the night of, I voted that they should be available in every baseball stadium.
You did.
Right? Yeah,
Yes.
you did say that
They
because it was just so good, and I didn't get to eat them until after the event. Honestly, it was something that I was surprised. It's almost like falafel,
Sure.
but
Falafel meets a runza
yeah.
meets a spiced loose meat sandwich.
Yes.
Okay, you go
Right, 'cause
somewhere
the
now, chef.
inside
You go somewhere now,
Is
chef.
browned out before. Like I was fully expecting that the meat and bulgur would be formed raw, then breaded and fried.
Yeah.
But for sure, the meat was cooked, and then like the bulgur got added to that cooked, and that bound that all together. Then that gets formed, then breaded. Am I right?
And the key thing is though, what she does here that is so amazing is that you have to use some of the meat when you grind the burger.
Oh, that they're grinding together.
Yeah, some of
Oh,
it. So it's a process.
So almost like making a sausage. 'Cause
Yes.
Making a blend of.
Exactly.
Okay.
That blew my mind that you create that ahead of time. So there was one person that was vegan, so we had to make them separate. We did not put the meat in there, but when I tasted it, it wasn't the same for me. The fact that you have to do ground beef or ground meat completely, and also add some meat into the
Bulgur.
bulgur
Wow.
as it grinds, and it has to be lean meat.
Yeah.
You know,
going in with the lamb.
yes.
Got
So it helps you when you bind this together.
Yeah.
It helps you when you put it, because as like I'm saying, it comes like a sausage. You know, so when you put all the things, and then you have to, it's an art to be able to do that, fold this and put it down. You wasn't this
Right, 'cause
lady
you don't
doing
have
it.
the sausage case
Yes.
sitting on the end either. You got-
I tried one and I was like, no, you know, I'm just gonna let you do this. You know, I won't be able to. So
Okay. So did they actually have the pastry under the we'll say extruder and you're holding it and then folding?
with the attachment, it comes out like a casing.
Okay.
And then she just like mold the bottom
little
part,
meatballs.
and then just puts the meat inside and then fold it back together.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, she wanted to serve that in that shape form.
Sure.
But I think we can also make it like a croquette.
Yes.
If you know, there was so many things that we could do to make it easy. You know,
The form was great.
Yes.
Too small to be, snack size.
Snack size,
Too
yeah,
big
you
to
know,
be snack
yeah,
size, I mean.
yeah.
But amazing.
Yeah,
It was
I'm-
the star of the night for me as far as something I was
Combining.
unprepared for what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was. I mean, honestly, when I had it myself afterward, because what I had in mind was just serving the kibbeh. I was like, and I started reading this research, I was like, well, you have kibbeh with a yogurt, like almost like a soup, kind of like or the soup. Why not just do so we did actually add some roasted eggplant that we fold into the yogurt as well to give you something. Yeah, so we did, because I want to add the element and put a little bit of eggplant on top of it also. Roasted eggplant. So those are just things that, honestly, Chef, up until those days, like, I don't know how it's going to be. And it's me playing with food from those areas and stuff like that. And that's what I love about this, the creativity of how this works, and then how it turns out to be. And then I'm just amazed. And it tells you that food is food. Because if you asked me 2 months ago how I will serve this kibbeh, I will tell you, I don't know.
Sure.
I never had kibbeh before.
Yeah.
But every time I do these capstones, every dish is the first time that I'm making it. Because awesome. I rely on the class.
You're learning from them too.
I'm learning a lot from them.
And I always learn so much when I talk to chefs and folks behind the food. And this was such a great opportunity to learn. And we're kind of winding down on this part one of my conversation with Chef Jamil Bah-Traore of House of Bah and Chef Brian O'Malley of Metropolitan Community College Institute for the Culinary Arts. We only really got to Malawi and part of Syria on this first part. We still have Morocco, Benin, Sudan, and Jordan to go on part two. So listen in to the show next time around so you can hear part two of this conversation. The dialogue with these two chefs is just fantastic. I love talking with these guys, and I was so blessed by the food that these 10 chefs, 10 women that brought their cuisine and put it forth in a fine dining way and presentation that might have been a little tough for them, because some of these dishes aren't served that way. They're served in a family style, is how they're kind of used to preparing these. And so Chef Jamil had to pull them a little bit out of their comfort zone, and some of the diners may have had to get out of their comfort zone a little bit by trying these dishes that maybe they haven't had before. And that combination of efforts by the chefs and the diners then took those comfort zones and made them into a common comfort zone through food where things were comfortable. Brian O'Malley says, delicious wins. What a great statement. And that happens time and time again. One of the things with this show is food is a connection point. Everybody has to eat. And so I love the fact that food can bring people together around a literal table, around a food-based discussion. It's a wonderful thing. And these flavors and ingredients, sweet potatoes, onions, ground beef, chicken, black-eyed peas. We in the U.S. feel, I think, some of these dishes may be something we haven't experienced before, but really? Haven't you experienced some of these flavors? So these elements and ingredients then combine to make a different dish. There's a reason that chefs make this food and have been doing so for long time, because it's tasty. Also, before we sign it off on the show today, I wanted to give you a couple of options since, you've been listening about wonderful food from countries that maybe you haven't been to. So you can travel to a different country through food. And I'm going to give you a couple places to try. We've done a couple of episodes about some of these restaurants. Just a quick overview. One is Okra African Grill. Head chef Nina Soji. We've had her on the show. She's absolutely wonderful. You may remember her story talking about how the spices and seasonings, she couldn't find them when she started cooking here. So she actually opened a grocery store to get those things. But she has her own restaurant, Okra African Grill. It's located at 608 South 72nd Street in Omaha. It's a fast casual atmosphere, so you can order like a build-a-bowl and you can get your base of food like a good jollof rice, a red rice, a tomato ensconced rice, and pick your protein on there. You can get things like chicken, steak, lamb. I really like the kebabs. You can get shrimp, veggies. Then you have your choice of sauce. There's a peanut butter sauce, tomato sauce, spinach sauce. If you're ordering there too and you get the chance, try the ablo. It's a little rice dumpling, a little chewy, just kind of a nice accent to your meal. Go see Chef Nina and tell her Saturday Omaha sent you. It's really delicious food. Also, we're going to talk about real quick, Lalabella. Lalabella is a great Ethiopian spot. They are located at 4422 Cass Street, so right off of Saddle Creek there. They're tucked away just a bit, but not too hard to find. Great parking, great food. The food is served on injera, which is a type of bread made from a grain called teff, and it's a sourdough. And when you get your food, you get this giant piece of teff, which is very thin but very large in diameter, and your food is actually sitting on top of the injera. And so you can rip a piece of this injera bread off and use that as your utensil to grab your food. If it's your first time there, I might recommend trying the combination. You'll get all sorts of things like lentils and cabbage and stews. Doro wat, I believe, is the type of stew that is served with the combination platter. I believe you kind of get like a spicy egg in there as well, too. Some of the things will be a little hotter than others, but not everything is spicy from a capsaicin tongue-burning standpoint. This is going to be flavorful. That's one of the things you'll hear in part 2. Also, we're talking about all these wonderful flavors and combinations. So do give Lalabella a try. Also, I'll mention 2 places that I actually haven't been to. They're actually in close proximity to Lalabella. One is Lucy Ethiopian Coffee. I have heard good things about this place. If you get a chance to go, give it a try. Send me an email at SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Let me know how it was, or DM me on your choice of social media network. We're probably there. And let me know how it was. The other one is Huyo's Kitchen. They are located at 1016 Northwest Radial Highway. Also, pretty much within earshot of Lalabella. They are tucked away a little bit more in a strip mall there, kind of by Salween Thai. Great Thai place if you get a chance to go get some drunken noodles. Anyway, again, I have not been to this place yet. They say that they have Somali, Mediterranean, and East African dishes. Give them a try. Again, let me know how they were. So just some great experiences to be had. There's a lot of wonderful food that is in our Omaha area. And sometimes you just gotta look for it a little bit. It's not all located in a central hub, but things are here for you to experience within Omaha. And I hope that this conversation shows that you can connect through food. That common touchstone, again, is something absolutely wonderful. I was very blessed to be at the House of Bah Culinary Capstone dinner and experience a very cold night outside, but a very warm and inviting evening around a table, meeting new people and meeting new food. If you've enjoyed this conversation, I hope you have. Please join us for part 2, where we will get into those dishes from Syria. We're going to finish up the kibbeh, Morocco, Benin, Sudan, Jordan. So, as we say, until we eat again, stay hungry. Stay Fitzorko. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.